For years, Ducati have been hovering in the adventure bike space with a bike called the Multistrada. Now, I always love that bike, I've owned loads of them, but I always criticise it for being not quite the trail bike that Ducati perhaps said it was. And to answer that question, not just my question, but the question of thousands of buyers across the world, Ducati have now brought out this, the Desert X 950. Now this bike uses the same engine as the Multistrada 950, so the V2 Multistrada engine. It's 937cc, it's liquid cooled, and it's got a different gearbox, but other than that, it's basically the same tune as a Multistrada V2. Now, some people think, because the original concept of the Desert X used an air-cooled scrambler engine, that this uses the air-cooled motor. It doesn't. It uses the liquid-cooled Multistrada V2 motor. It's an all-new chassis, and in a first for Ducati, the Desert X uses a 21-inch front wheel and an 18-inch rear wheel, which means that any tyre size you like for off-road riding is available to people who want to really use this bike to its full capabilities. If you've seen some of the promotional videos of this bike, you can see that it really is cut out for trail riding. I actually rode this for the first time at the ABR festival, and within 2 hours I was doing sums in my head about how I might be able to afford one. It's that good on a trail for a big adventure bike. Now the bike's got a 21 litre tank, which means it's got around a 230 mile fuel range. It also comes with every single electronic toy that you'd expect from a modern Ducati. So you've got 6 different riding modes, including wet mode, urban, sport, enduro for off-road riding, and then rally for more experienced riding, which lets you have a bit more fun on the brakes, lets you slide the bike around a bit more, probably a bit more for experienced off-road riders. Now on the road, the bike's an absolute gem despite being so good on the trails. It actually surprised me how nimble it is on the road for such a big bike. It really is a very friendly back road motorcycle that if you fancy riding a bit faster, you can actually attack some corners on too. Now I'm 6'4", I have to say the screen's a little bit low for me, but that's normal. I'm like a lanky giant, but actually on-road comfort is amazing. The riding position means it suits smaller riders. Some of our film crew here today are a bit shorter than me and they find it no problem to touch the floor. It's very well engineered for all different sizes of riders. So the bike is fitted with a multi-purpose Pirelli STR Rally tyre. It's a tyre that you'll see in a lot of adventure bikes in this class, things like the Norden, KTM 890 Rally, the Yamaha Tenere 700 World Raid, those kind of bikes. Now they look like a sort of semi-knobbly tyre, but actually on the road they are amazing. I've owned 2 different bikes with these tyres and I have to say they give you a lot of trust and a lot of feedback. And they're good enough on the trails for things like we're riding today, like on gravel tracks. Maybe not quite so good in mud. The brakes in this bike, they're Brembo M50 monoblock calipers, and there's 2 of them and they work fantastically. It also comes with Bosch's latest cornering ABS system, which means if you really get caught out in the middle of a corner and want to run a bit wide, you can just pull the brake and the bike just pulls you around the corner. There's traction control, there's adjustable ABS, there's adjustable slide control, there's adjustable engine brake distribution, all kinds of things you can get lost with, but if you do, you can just go back to a default setting and start again. The suspension is fully adjustable, but it's not electronic suspension. Now I would imagine at some point, knowing Ducati's history, they'll come out with another version that would feature full electronic suspension. But for me, for now, the suspension on this bike is perfect. It's got a massive 250 millimeters of ground clearance, which puts it right up there with some of the best bikes in the class when it comes to riding on the trail. I've done around 500 miles on this bike in the last week and a half on all kinds of roads, on motorways, and it's completely happy to sit at 70, 75 miles an hour on motorways with a bit of turbulence from the screen, like I said, but I am 6'4", so just bear that in mind. But it's got fantastic road manners. If you're riding it in cities, you can stick it in urban mode, which actually drops the power down from 110 horsepower down to 75 horsepower and makes it really gentle and friendly in town. So it is a big bike, it is a big adventure bike, but it's really good, and I'd say it puts it pretty much right at the top of the class. And the great thing about this bike is Ducati have really answered the prayers of those people who wanted a Ducati adventure bike that could literally take them anywhere, anytime. It is the bike that adventure fans have been waiting for from Ducati.